Every single World Cup has one youngster who arrives as a promising prospect and leaves as a global legend. In 2014, 22-year-old James Rodriguez set the world on fire, scoring 6 sensational goals, winning the Golden Boot, and changing the trajectory of his career forever. Before him, it was Thomas Müller in 2010. After him, Kylian Mbappé in 2018. With the biggest World Cup in history arriving in 2026, a new generation of Wonderkids stands ready to shock the world. But who holds the ultimate tactical blueprint to become the next global superstar? Today, we are counting down the top 10 breakout youngsters set to rule the 2026 World Cup. Now, before we look at the list, let's establish our criteria. We are scoring each player out of 60 points based on 6 core metrics: tactical versatility, statistical ceiling, national team importance, clutch factor, Confederation pedigree, and their unique X factor. And to keep this list fair, we have established the superstar exclusion. Players under 23 who are already established senior World Cup veterans, specifically Jude Bellingham and Jamal Musiala, who both starred at Qatar 2022, are disqualified. We are looking strictly at players poised for their first ever World Cup tournament debut, which is why Lamine Yamal and German talisman Florian Wirtz remain eligible for our countdown. Let's see who has what it takes. Starting off our countdown at number 10 is Ivory Coast defensive titan Ousmane Diomande with a total score of 40 points. Opening with tactical versatility, the Sporting centre back scores a 7 out of 10, adapting effortlessly to a back 3 or a standard back 4 layout. For statistical ceiling, he earns an 8 out of 10, boasting elite progressive carrying and line-breaking passing vectors. His national team importance stands at a 7 out of 10, serving as the defensive bedrock for the AFCON winning squad. Moving to clutch factor, he secures a 6 out of 10, reflecting strong continental dominance but requiring more senior UEFA knockout experience. His Confederation pedigree scores a 6 out of 10, showing high physical adaptability during competitive qualifying cycles. And finally, his X factor is a 6 out of 10, defined by his immense recovery pace and imposing physical stature. Coming in at number 9 is Argentina's Alejandro Garnacho with a total score of 42 points. For tactical versatility, Garnacho receives a 6 out of 10 as he is highly dependent on wide spaces and struggles when forced into congested central blocks. His statistical ceiling earns a 7 out of 10, demonstrating high volume shot creation but requiring more consistency in his final delivery. His national team importance stands at a 6 out of 10, serving primarily as a dangerous tactical bench weapon for Lionel Scaloni. Moving to clutch factor, he secures a 7 out of 10, driven by his high impact displays in domestic cup tournaments. His Confederation pedigree scores a 7 out of 10, showing rapid adaptation to the intensity of South American fixtures. And finally, his X factor is a massive 9 out of 10, fueled by his blistering counter-attacking speed and direct running physics. Stepping up to number 8 is England's Kobbie Mainoo, scoring 43 points. Opening with tactical versatility, Mainoo secures a 7 out of 10, playing comfortably as a box-to-box midfielder or deep controller. His statistical ceiling scores a sensational 9 out of 10, with press resistance and tight space escape metrics that are statistically elite. For national team importance, he earns a 7 out of 10, rapidly becoming England's preferred build-up pressure valve. His clutch factor scores an 8 out of 10, backed by his match-winning performance in the FA Cup final. His Confederation pedigree is a 6 out of 10 as he has only recently established himself on the senior European stage. And finally, his X factor stands at a 6 out of 10, relying on positional intelligence rather than explosive physical attributes. Breaking into the upper tier at number 7 is Portugal's João Neves with a total score of 45 points. Starting with Tactical Versatility, Neves earns a solid 8 out of 10, adjusting seamlessly between defensive shielding and progressive roles. His Statistical Ceiling scores a massive 9 out of 10, driven by absurd ball recovery, tackle success and coverage metrics. For national team importance, he secures a near-perfect 9 out of 10, serving as the tactical glue in Roberto Martinez's midfield. His clutch factor is a 6 out of 10, reflecting high-quality domestic performance but needing more defining moments in international knockout phases. His Confederation Pedigree scores a 6 out of 10 as his European qualifying resume is still growing. And finally, his X factor is a 7 out of 10, characterized by his low center of gravity and relentless work rate. Claiming the number 6 spot is Turkey's playmaker wizard Arda Güler with a total score of 47 points. Opening with Tactical Versatility, the Real Madrid prodigy earns a perfect 10 out of 10, operating flawlessly as a right winger, a 10 or a deep creator. His Statistical Ceiling scores a 9 out of 10, reflecting elite shot volume, key passes and ball manipulation metrics. For national team importance, he scores a 7 out of 10 as Turkey's overall tactical consistency occasionally limits his influence. His clutch factor earns an 8 out of 10, highlighted by his sensational game-changing Euro campaign. His Confederation Pedigree scores a 7 out of 10, showing rapid dominance in competitive European fixtures. And finally, his X factor is a 6 out of 10, relying on pure technical wizardry rather than raw physical pace. Charging into number 5 is France's Warren Zaïre-Emery, scoring 48 points. Starting with Tactical Versatility, the PSG engine room controller earns a massive 9 out of 10, adapting instantly to box or defensive duties. His Statistical Ceiling scores a 9 out of 10, combining elite physical duel rates with passing progressiveness. His national team importance also secures a 9 out of 10, serving as France's next generation midfield pillar. Moving to clutch factor, he scores a 7 out of 10, reflecting consistent elite performances in the Champions League knockouts. His Confederation Pedigree scores a 7 out of 10, showing solid adaptation to UEFA's high-level international fixtures. And finally, his X factor is a 7 out of 10, highlighted by his exceptional physical core and balance under heavy pressure. Securing the number 4 spot is Colombia's explosive frontman Durán, scoring 49 points. For tactical versatility, Durán receives a 7 out of 10, operating best as a direct space-charging striker. His Statistical Ceiling earns an 8 out of 10, showing world-class shot conversion efficiency per minute played. His national team importance stands at a 7 out of 10 as Nestor Lorenzo continues to transition him into a guaranteed starter. His clutch factor scores an elite 9 out of 10, backed by his phenomenal record of late high-pressure match-winning goals. His Confederation Pedigree scores an 8 out of 10, proving highly effective against physical South American defenders. And finally, his X factor is a perfect 10 out of 10, characterized by his completely unpredictable shooting physics and raw power. Entering the top 3 at number 3 is Germany's midfield engine, Florian Wirtz, with a sensational score of 50 points. Opening with Tactical Versatility, Wirtz earns a 9 out of 10, moving seamlessly as a winger, playmaker or central spearhead under Xabi Alonso. His Statistical Ceiling scores a perfect 10 out of 10, leading Europe in progressive carries, chance creation and final third penetrations. His national team importance stands at a 9 out of 10, establishing him as Germany's creative focal point. For clutch factor, he secures an 8 out of 10, proven by his pivotal role in Leverkusen's historic undefeated domestic campaign. His Confederation Pedigree earns an 8 out of 10, reflecting complete regional comfort in high-stakes European cycles. And finally, his X factor is a 6 out of 10, characterized by his world-class tactical anticipation and elite spatial manipulation. Just missing out on the top spot at number 2 is Brazil's Endrick with a massive score of 51 points. Starting with tactical versatility, the Real Madrid prodigy earns an 8 out of 10, playing comfortably as a lone striker or in a dual forward system. His statistical ceiling scores a 9 out of 10, highlighting elite penalty box activity and high efficiency ball striking rates. His national team importance secures a 9 out of 10, representing Brazil's ultimate tactical spearhead. His clutch factor scores a near perfect 9 out of 10, proven by historic goals in domestic finals and high-stakes qualifiers. His Confederation Pedigree is a 7 out of 10 as he prepares to make his absolute debut on the global World Cup stage. And finally, his X Factor scores a massive 9 out of 10, blending a Romario-like low center of gravity with elite body shielding physics. Before we reveal our number 1 pick, let's look at our 4D blueprint honorable mentions. First is Turkey's Kenan Yildiz. The Juventus forward is clinical in one-on-one situations but was excluded due to our strict one player per country limit as Arda Güler claimed Turkey's main list slot. Next is Argentina's Claudio Echeverri. The Manchester City signing has a massive playmaker ceiling but is currently competing for starting minutes in a loaded squad. And finally, Germany's Alexander Pavlovich Bayern's sensational deep line controller who represents the future of midfield play but missed the main list due to Wirtz claiming Germany's slot. And now, the number 1 youngster set to rule the 2026 World Cup, Spain's Lamine Yamal, with an incredible score of 56 points. Opening with tactical versatility, the Barcelona sensation earns a perfect 10 out of 10, dominating as a wide playmaker, inside forward, or central creator. His statistical ceiling scores a perfect 10 out of 10, with progressive dribbling and chance creation data that rivals prime historical debuts. His national team importance also earns a perfect 10 out of 10, serving as the crown jewel of Spain's entire offensive blueprint. His clutch factor scores an elite 9 out of 10, backed by his phenomenal young player of the tournament performance at Euro 2024. His Confederation Pedigree scores a 9 out of 10, reflecting complete regional dominance during Spain's trophy run. And finally, his X factor is an 8 out of 10, characterized by his generational spatial awareness and body balance. Which of these wonder kids are you backing to rule the 2026 World Cup? Will Lamine Yamal seal his legendary status, or does Jhon Durán surprise the Giants? Let us know your predictions in the comments below. Make sure to hit that subscribe button to unlock the ultimate playbook, and we will see you next time on 4D Blueprints.